To add an assignment, you need to make sure that editing is turned on in your course area. Editing is turned on when you can see these kinds of icons and this link. Select Add Activity or Resource and select Assignment and select Add. There is quite a lot of information about the assignment tool in the right-hand panel if you want to read it. When you're creating a new assignment, there are a lot of parameters that need to be added, and the best thing to do is to make sure that they are all expanded so you can see everything that needs to be worked on. The most important things are the general area, where the assignment name is, the availability, where you set the availability, the submission types, which is where you set what kinds of submission you're going to take from the students, the feedback types, so how you're going to respond to the students, the submission settings, how that submission is going to be dealt with, and finally the grade, what kind of grading method are you going to select. So I'm going to show you how to add all of these things. The first thing is the assignment name. Now, there is no official naming convention at Goldsmiths, but when you are naming an assignment, it is a good idea to think of ways to make it stand out as a unique object. Here's an example of what might be a fairly useful assignment name. This is a fake module code. This is the academic year. And then this is the actual assignment title. So if there was a query about this assessment that needed to be looked at by IT services or by the Learning Enhancement Unit, it would be very, very easy to find. The next part of the assignment that you need to set up is the description, and the description is very important. Now, you can put all of the description in this box rather than giving the students a handout as a Word document that they need to download and refer to. You could just paste it in here. So here I've set my parameters. How long it's expected to be, so 2,500 words. And then I've also written something about the file types that will be accepted. So I'm saying, please make sure that you upload a .doc file, a Microsoft Word document. Other file types will not be accepted. Now, of course, someone is always going to upload the wrong file type, but it doesn't hurt to remind them here. Then I've got my due date, and then I've got my question. I'm happy with that. I'm going to set the availability. By default, learn.gold will allow submissions from the date that you're creating the assessment, but you can set that date to any point in the future if you want to. Then it will automatically set a due date of 7 days in advance. Now you can change that as well. And I'm also going to add a time. Now, the due date is not the date when students can no longer upload their documents. It is just the day after which the assignment is marked as late. If you want to prevent your students from continuing to upload documents after the due date, then you need to enable the cut-off date, and that will take away the button that allows them to submit. It makes sense to make your cut-off date and time to be the same as your due date, except for the fact that this is an online service and things can sometimes go wrong. So I'm going to give the students a grace period of 30 minutes. Now, that surely isn't enough for them to radically change the assignment that they're writing. And anyway, if there is any query about somebody using this time, what you can do is to look at the logs and see if they're logged in and if they were attempting to upload prior to the cut-off date. So it's not really giving the students a bit of an extra time. The next section is submission types. Most people are just going to want file submissions. Online text is only really suitable for small pieces of work. You can also set the maximum number of files that the students can upload. You can also set a minimum or a maximum size for the files as well. Now, for feedback, by default, it is set to feedback comments, which will basically create a text box that comments can be written into. But you can also add feedback files. Feedback files are quite useful because you can download the student submission, you can add content into that submission using track changes or comments, and then you can upload that as a feedback file. So all of your feedback is included, as well as the original essay, which gives the student their feedback in very good context. Submission settings. Do not turn this one on. If you require students to click the submit button, you can guarantee that some of them will forget and they will not submit their assignments properly, even though they have been uploaded at the right time. Require that students accept the submission statement is different. That is a global statement that goes across the whole of Learn.gold, and what it does is it gets them to say that it is their own work. Of course they can lie, but it is drawing their attention to the issues of plagiarisms. The last parameter that I'm going to talk about is the grade. By default, we have simple and direct grading. The grading method generally is simple and direct grading, but there are other methods. There is a marking guide where you can set some criteria, and there is the rubric, which is a much more tighter group of criteria that is related to a numerical grade for individual parts of the assessment, say use of English or sticking to the point. But on the whole, most people keep it at simple and direct grading. And the grade scales themselves, you can use the built-in ones, or you can just use out of 100 or out of 50 or out of 10. Blind marking, that is if you want your marking to be done anonymously. So you can select that to yes, and then the student's identity will be masked with a randomly generated number and piece of text. The marking workflow is a new feature in Learn.gold, and there will be a separate video about this, as the same for marking allocation. So that is setting up a simple assignment. So once it's done, I'm going to save it and return to the course. So here's my assessment. And this is what the student sees. If I click into it, I can see the title, I can see the information, and I can see the button that allows me to upload my submission. As a teacher though, in the settings, in the description box, I could click on the display description on a course page and save it. This puts the description here in the topic area. And this is what the students see. So they get all the information about the assessment on the home page. The only issue that you might have with it is it will make the page a little bit longer, and it will mean a little more scrolling, but it does also mean that more information is available without the student needing to click into particular resources.